Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome to another installment of the What's in the Watch Roll series. These are my favourite videos because it means I'm off somewhere exotic. And indeed, I'm going to Scotland! That's right, for the first time in 5 years, I'm going back to the motherland and I'm taking my family with me. I was due a trip back in early 2020, but we all know what happened in early 2020. And then obviously travel isn't all that easy or that fun with a baby, but it's high time I went back to see friends and family and to introduce them to my son. So by the time you watch this video, I will already have left. Now, it's a shame to go all that way only to see places that you've seen before, so we're actually flying from Sydney to Italy, spending a week there, and then travelling over to the UK. I'll be catching up with the guys from Scottish Watches and hopefully doing a bit of recording with them while I'm back, so I wanted to take a mixture of pieces as usual, a couple of my more expensive watches, but nothing that looks flashy. I don't want to take anything that's going to cause any unwanted attention in Rome, for example. And there is one certain watch that I recently acquired, you can still pre-order them, link in the description of the video, that I thought it was best to take one of those with me as well, of course. Most of my family have never really had a clue about why I do what I do on YouTube. Perhaps a physical manifestation of my obsession will help them understand. What else is coming with me? Let's flip the camera and find out. Alright, you know how this works. I always take 4 watches with me on my travels, 3 in the roll, 1 on the wrist. I suspect most of you already know what is on the wrist today. The question becomes not what is it, but what colour version did I choose to take back to Scotland with me? It is, of course, the EREBUS Origin, and I chose the classic black version to take on my travels. Look, it has been a fantastic week for me here in Sydney. These arrived and I have had a great time filming them all. A real kind of proud week for me. You know, a year's worth of work in the background, and to see that come to fruition, to actually see it come to fruition in your hands and on your wrist has just been amazing. Now, I like all of the different 8 colour versions, which is why we've put them all up for sale. But I guess this is the original Origin, if you forgive that one. This was the original version. We designed the watch around this black, white with a touch of red colour scheme. All the other versions came after. So yeah, this was what I always had in my head when I envisaged this watch. And really, this is pretty close to what I had in my head. So I've got to be delighted. And this is the version that I've chose to take on my travels and to show to the good people of Scotland, and particularly my family when I get there. We're really delighted with how it came out. This is exactly what we wanted. We wanted tool, legible, all brushed, but very, very usable, and just with a little bit of sophistication so you can use it under any and all circumstances. This is the type of watch that I could rock all day, and yeah, I'm looking forward to wearing it a lot on my holidays. Obviously, I have worn it a lot already. First stage and second stage prototypes, they have had plenty of wrist time from both Stephen and myself, so I know how well it wears. And because it has the on-the-fly adjustable clasp, another little plug there, I will be able to cope with changes in atmospheric pressure and weather conditions, whether I'm on the plane, in Italy, or freezing my buttocks off in the west coast of Scotland somewhere. So watch number 1, it had to be an Origin. My family all think I'm mad. Perhaps they'll think I'm slightly less mad when I pass this one around the dinner table. Watch number 2 is the Aorus Diver 65, no less than the 6th Aorus Diver 65 that I've had over the years. Yeah, okay, perhaps I am a bit mad. I did say I was going to take a couple of more expensive pieces with me. I don't normally travel with expensive stuff. I guess a lot of people don't normally travel with expensive stuff because of the risk of losing a bag or a watch in the sea or a swimming pool, or you just don't want to necessarily attract the wrong type of attention in certain places. But I have chosen a couple of watches that I think are low-key luxury, kind of covert luxury. Watches that don't shout about how much money they cost. Because this one has the caliber 400, it does cost a pretty penny. It certainly costs a lot more than the standard Sellita 200 powered versions, but at the same time, it's arguably the most low-key version of the Aorus Diver 65 that I've seen to date. Fixed black bezel, Grey dial, it doesn't really crow about the price tag, does it? You'd be hard pushed to distinguish this one from a regular 65, which in itself is not a particularly shouty look at me watch at all, which is one of the reasons why I've always really enjoyed it. Another reason is because I've always found it a really good fit for me personally. It's obviously less chunky than the EREBUS, it weighs a few grams less than the EREBUS as well. Got that big vintage style taper on the bracelet. I've always said my sweet spot was somewhere between 38 and 42, and at 40, this Aorus is right in the middle of that. Plus, as advertised on the dial, 5 days of power reserve. I do play a game with myself when I'm on my travels to try and keep all of the watches that I have chosen to bring with me wound, set, right date, etc, etc. That is going to give me a definite advantage. I can wear this one, pop it back in the box, whip it out, so to speak, several days later, and it will still be set and ticking away nicely. Hence why I'm taking the Aorus. Watch number 3 is the second of the more expensive pieces that I'm taking on my holiday with me. It is my Citizen Chronomaster. AQ 4020-51A if you must know. Now, this has almost been in my collection for a year, coming up to its anniversary, and indeed I have made a 1 year on the wrist video which we'll upload at some point over the next couple of weeks, explaining again why I bought it and why I have fallen more than a little bit in love with it. It has actually led me to sell a number of pieces in my collection that I just wasn't wearing because I was wearing this one more and more. I bought it so that it could be the quartz grab and go, the fail-safe piece. I wear so many review watches and so many other watches as part of what is now my job. It's great to have one solid, steady, reliable watch that I don't have to set to pick up any other time that I'm not wearing a review piece. And the Citizen fulfills that role absolutely perfectly. It also in some ways takes me back a few years to be the type of collector and the type of watch user that I was before YouTube came along and my life just became overrun with watches. Back then I tended to wear one good watch as my main watch every day and have a few supplementals around it. And those watches tended to be high quality quartz pieces just like this one. Anyway, there is a much longer video coming out in the next couple of weeks explaining all of that, but yeah, I've just fallen for this one in a big way. So nicely made, so comfortable, and if you want something that flies under the radar, surely nothing flies under the radar as well as a JDM Citizen. I know how great this watch is, but really, you have to be a bit of a watch nerd to appreciate it. For a lot of people, it just looks like a shopping mall Citizen, and I like that. I really enjoy the fact that it's got all this tech, it's handmade, hand finished, they grow their own crystals, the dial is a piece of washi paper, it never needs serviced, etc, etc. But it just looks like your standard shopping mall Citizen, and it doesn't raise any eyebrows as a consequence. I love it. Well, some crackers there. How am I going to choose between them? And then there is this one added to the mix. If you watch these Watching the Watch Roll videos before, you know I always like to take a Casio as my fourth watch, usually a digital, for the extra utility you get, the alarm, the stopwatch, the countdown timer. A bit of after dark illumination, and today that fourth spot, the Casio spot, is taken by this Wave Scepter. New to the channel, I have posted about it on Instagram before though. I picked this one up after reviewing Jason from WA's Casio lineage because it had the same 5161 module in the back of it. So it's predominantly an analog watch, but with digital features. It has a phenomenal backlight and Wave Scepter, radio wave receptor, it's radio controlled. I have lived in Australia now for exactly 20 years, and that means for exactly 20 years I have not been able to utilize the features of a watch that receives the atomic clock signal because we don't get it down here. So I'm really looking forward to going back to Europe and watching this watch change time zones as I cross them or when I ask it to receive that signal. Plus, if you want something low-key that doesn't attract attention, surely this is the one of the four. I think I paid about $85 plus taxes for this one when I picked it up on eBay. Again, there's a review of this bad boy coming up while I'm still on my holidays. It is pre-recorded and scheduled to drop. I really enjoy it. I've been wearing it a lot. It's a great nighttime watch as well because it has an insanely bright LED in the bottom there. Yeah, very much low-key. When I'm visiting the Colosseum or something, I'll leave the others in the safe, slap this on my wrist and not really worry about it at all. So there we are. I've got to hold down this wave scepter because the integrated band never plays ball when I try and get them all to sit nice, play nice. Those are my 4 watches then. That's what I'm taking with me on my 3-week trip overseas. Roughly a week in Italy, 10 days in Scotland, plus a bit of travel time at either end. So yeah, I'm delighted with this selection. All watches that have, I guess, a personal relevance to me. You know, I've been a big fan of the Aorus for many years. I've really fallen in love with that one. Casio, you know, need I say more? And my own watch. So a great selection of watches, couple of divers, one much more dressy and one with extra utility. All watches I will happily talk to people about. I guess there's going to be a little bit of watch chat over the holiday, and all of these were chosen with that in mind as well. Thanks for making it all the way to the back end of the video. If you want to see a couple of the 4-piece selections I've taken on previous trips, click here or here. I'll see you again in the next one.